Hey good people, happy Friday and welcome back to the channel. In a few moments, I'll be sharing my thoughts and feelings on episode 7 of Ready to Love Miami. And over the course of this video, I'll be sharing my breakdown for episode 7, followed by the important happenings with all the cast members. Then I will end my video with an overall rating. So without any further delay, let's jump right in. The episode starts with Nephew Tommy meeting up with the ladies. He tasks them with introducing their connections to their best friends. But unfortunately, the scenes really don't show much interaction between the friends and the men. And that's pretty typical for this kind of episode of Ready to Love. But towards the end of the episode, the ladies nominate Justice and LJ to get eliminated, and Justice gets the boot. Now I was expecting Justin to get eliminated at some point, but I don't think that he should have been eliminated in this episode, and here's why. Justice has a very strong connection with Looney and a decent connection with Trunika. Trunika has no shot with Randall, and neither she nor Looney view LJ in a romantic light. LJ has no connections on the show, but it seems like the women voted off Justice in order to be strategic. Some of them knew that if Justice remained on the show, he might have voted one of them off the next episode. So they kept LJ around so that he wouldn't vote one of them off, and so that Looney would be next on the chopping block after Kadyn gets voted off. So all in all, this episode just further proves that this show was more of a dating version of Survivor, and it's not really an avenue to help singles find meaningful connections. But let's move on to my thoughts on the meetup scenes for this episode. The first scene is with Jay introducing her two friends to Randall, or Rah-Rah as she calls him. Jay strolls up to the scene, and the two friends interrogate him right off the bat. They hit him with the rapid fire questions, but Randall plays it cool and answers the questions with ease. Randall wins over the friends, and it's pretty clear that Jay views Randall as her top and only connection. However, she's still the one that's initiating the kisses. Randall, on the other hand, seems to realize that Jay might be his best bet. At this point, they've kissed on the mouth multiple times, and Randall has to know the news of his connection and kisses will make it back to the ladies' lounge. So it would behoove Randall to lock Jay in sooner than later. But next we have Kadyn introducing her friend to Swayze. Prior to Swayze's arrival, Kadyn is pretty messy, and she asks her friend to do what she, meaning Kadyn, can't do with Swayze, so that Swayze won't be offended with her. The friend replied by saying, "Challenge accepted." Swayze arrives, and what started off as a pretty lighthearted scene quickly turns left, as Kadyn's friend goes in attack mode when she asks Swayze about the race of the women that he typically dates. In my opinion, that's really none of her business, but Swayze answers truthfully, and it causes Kadyn to put words in his mouth by claiming that Swayze doesn't like black women. Swayze was highly offended by this, and he left the scene before he could say something that he might regret. Now, I've never been a fan of Kadyn, and I still don't think that she should be on the show, but she did herself no favors on how she handled the meeting. Next, we have a scene with Trunika and her friends are meeting LJ, Justice, and Randall. I'm glad that Trunika finally gets some time to shine on the show. When LJ arrives, the friend goes straight into interrogation mode, even reading questions off cue cards. But LJ answers them with ease, then proceeds to shoot some golf balls with Trunika. Justice then comes over to talk to the friends, but when they ask him very straightforward questions, he answers some of them in a brutally honest manner, and he answers others with a spiritually based answer, which we can tell that the friends aren't really feeling. The friends then meet Randall, and they try to interrogate him, but Randall's too smooth and quick on his feet. When the guys leave, the friends then come to the consensus that Justice is trash, Randall is a player, but LJ is the man for her. Now we all know that Trunika isn't really feeling LJ. Her top connection is Randall, but she has Justice as a strong second because he doesn't have as many connections as Randall. But I'm pretty certain that Trunika would never date somebody like LJ if it wasn't for the show. We then get a scene of Charisse having her friend meet Samson. Now their scene together wasn't very long, but Samson makes a great impression on Charisse, the friend, and Charisse's dog. I also gotta acknowledge that Charisse's friend is thicker than week-old oatmeal, and she comes off as a better match for Samson than Charisse at this point. Kayla then brings her friend to meet Randall and Mike. And in my opinion, Kayla's friend is a real one for how she was able to assess the situation and call Kayla out on her BS. While Mike was around, Kayla was engaged and entertained him despite him not giving straight answers to the friend. But when Randall arrived, Kayla wouldn't make eye contact with him, which was more than likely noticed by Randall. It seems like a guy like Mike is Kayla's type, and she would prefer to date him than somebody that may treat her better. And she has a right to approach the game that way. But next we have Brandy, who has her friend meet Samson and Mike. Samson comes first. He gives Brandy a kiss on the lips. Accidentally, of course. However, Brandy wastes no time calling Samson out on only wanting to get to know her personality and not objectifying her. Samson then happily informs Brandy that she's a bad mamma jamma, just as fine as she could be. Mike comes to the scene bearing gifts, but we don't get to see much of his interactions with the friend. When Mike and Samson leave, Brandy's friend is pretty much torn on who Brandy should pick. Last, we have Looney bringing her friend to meet LJ and Justice. Justice is the first to arrive, and right off the bat, his energy with Looney and her friend is completely different from meeting Trunika and her friends. I think this is because he knows that Looney is his top connection, whereas Trunika had multiple connections, and he didn't feel like competing for her. LJ then comes along, and it's pretty clear that there's a lack of chemistry between him and Looney. LJ even calls Looney out for not returning his phone calls, which is a clear sign that she's just not that into him. When LJ and Justice leave, the friend lets Looney know that she's Team Justice, and she has no confidence in a connection with LJ, which is definitely expected. But overall, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would rate this episode a 2. The editing was all over the place, the scenes were a little short, and for the second week in a row, the wrong person in my opinion got eliminated. Thankfully, we are past the halfway point in the season, and by now, I'm ready for the show to end. But this marks the end of my review. If you have any comments related to my review or the episode, feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I'll be sure to reply to everybody. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.